Well, we're starting a new series here on Live at 4, discovering Wisconsin's hidden historic treasures.
We're teaming up with the Wisconsin Historical Society to show you items you can only find in their expansive archives.
In our first edition of Hidden Treasures, archivist Simone Munson shows us some of the oldest Valentine's Day cards in the state.
Dearest, I love thee, and this world without thee would be dreary. All is dark when thou art not here, all light if thou art not near.
How did this practice of sending Valentines to one another begin?
Valentine's Day is a centuries-old tradition. Some people think that it starts with a pagan holiday in ancient Rome, and it becomes more popular in Europe in the 17th and 18th century. And that's really when we see the first Valentines being sent. And then the tradition comes to America with our immigrant ancestors from Europe, and they continue on the tradition of sending Valentines to their sweethearts in February. So,
what are some of the oldest Valentines you have here?
Yeah, so in the United States, the practice of sending Valentines becomes much more popular around the 1830s and 1840s. And people would have bought materials at a stationer. And so we see that, often the Valentines are very flat looking, and they look very much similar to like a stationery. They're not what we really sort of see as like a modern day card. But they do have these sort of handmade elements that were added. And so people could have bought gilding or something to sort of paste on the top at a stationery shop and made the card themselves. It's really with the invention of mass printing presses and lithography that we start to see more color being incorporated into Valentines. In the late Victorian, early 20th century period, they get very ostentatious and they have lots of detail and color, and they become three-dimensional as well as flat. The other thing is that they were meant for display, right? The idea of color printing was such a new trend, a new sort of fad, that you wouldn't just admire this on one day of the year, but you would sort of set it up in your home. It may have sat on an end table for people to admire throughout the year. And it was as much admired for its affection as it was for the idea that it was this new technology.
It's spectacular.
It is spectacular.
It sounds like a history book here.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of different themes that go throughout Valentine making. There are companies that start to make Valentine kits where people are making these homemade kits, and you have these Valentines in front here where people are adding embellishments and details themselves.
It's like the first scrapbookers.
Exactly. And they get these kits, and they sometimes they go a little over the top and they just put all of the pieces on it.
They don't know when to stop.
They don't know when to stop, right? But they're definitely emphatic in their devotion. And then the other thing that we see with some of the themes is there's during wartime the theme of Valentine's changes. So we might see a tank depicted in a Valentine. Red, white, and blue becomes more prominent. This woman has a red, white, and blue ribbon in her hair, and we see the little sailor suit in this Valentine. And then also new technologies are incorporated into them. So when cars become more popular and flight becomes possible, and even the telephone makes an appearance in this Valentine.
These are pretty elaborate.
They are.
And yet the messages are universal.
That's right.
I mean, even in this day and age, some of these beautiful handwritten poems would apply today, which is incredible.
Yeah.
It seems like people put more thought into it then than now.
Now you just text somebody.
Message somebody.
Right.
Be my Valentine.
Right.
Well, there is a bit of an element to that. I mean, communication took work, and so if you were going to send a communication, you really wanted it to get across all of the things that you wanted to say.
Now, some of these on the end almost look like Valentines you could buy for your children today. What era are those?
Right. So these are a little more modern. These are kind of what we think of as the school Valentine. These flat card Valentines that you can write a to and a from on the back, and these were produced in the 60s and 70s, so more like the cards that we see our kids send today.
How did all of these Valentines come into your possession, this collection?
Yeah, so the Historical Society has a really robust archive that includes the letters and papers of people from all over the state, and some of these Valentines would have come in with those collections as they were donated to the Historical Society, and then others were probably given to us separately, where someone said, this is a really outstanding example of an early 20th century Valentine. We want you to have it. So almost everything on this table was donated to the Historical Society.
happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
They're beautiful. Thank you for sharing them with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And as we said, some of the cards in the collection, and that was just a tiny sample, date back 190 years.
You can check out some of the other pieces in their collection by reading this month's Madison magazine. We'll also be featuring a new hidden treasure every month.
All the racks that you saw there behind us, those are filled with treasures, and it's not accessible to the public.
No, it's a new facility on the east side.
Yeah, so we're going to be showing you some of our state's hidden treasures
Some
every
pretty
month.
neat things
We're
in there.
looking forward to it.